Welcome to another episode of Stateside Reds. Today we have another history lesson. So episode 2. So it's Manchester United from 1903 to 1918. I get one of the sponsorships out the way. We're going to look at 𝙈𝙊𝙍𝙀 and 𝗕𝙀, your residential law firm over in LA. They do all sorts of things from slips and falls on a banana all the way up to car accidents. They have a 97% success rate. So if you're in the LA area, please go give them a shout out. That's 𝙈𝙊𝙍𝙀 and 𝗕𝙀. And with that being said, Mr. Green, I'm going to leave it over to you. I know you've done some research into this, so I'll hand it over to you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sean. Welcome, everybody. First off, I'd like to say hello and encourage everybody to hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Just want to say this group, StateSideReds, very fantastic group of guys. They truly are building a community. I think I've been kind of with them for about a month and a half, and look at me now. Got my own segment with Sean here on the History Channel. So yeah, hit the subscribe, join the community. Wonderful bunch of guys. Really super funny, very welcoming. So with that being said, I think last time we left off at 1902, when the name change occurred and the colors red and white became prevalent. So after a few years of languishing in the second division, 1903, they hired a guy named James Ernest Mangnall. Mangnall, I don't know about the pronunciation, but he went by Ernest. So Ernest, I guess, was a publicist who was a wizard working with the media, and he was able to go out and make a bunch of signings. So I believe the first big signing of the Manchester United Mangnall era was a guy named Billy Meredith, who is often considered to be the best footballer of that era. So immediate dividends, I guess. 1903, 04 season, they finished 5th in the second division. And then in the 1904-05 season, they finished 3rd in the second division, progressively making that climb. And then 1905-1906, they finished 2nd in the second division and earned their promotion into the 1st division of the English Football League. So some other notable signings. He signed Henry Burgess, or Herb Burgess.
Yeah, Herbert Burgess.
Herbert Burgess, Sandy Turnbull, Jimmy Bannister, all from Manchester City, after a scandal forced Man City to sell off most of their players. Not sure what the scandal was, but must have been a damning one for them to sell off all their players.
And I happen to a better side.
Right? Do you know what the distinction that Ernest Mangnall has that nobody else in the world has?
No, go ahead.
Only guy to coach both Manchester clubs.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know which side he was prouder of, but let's just say Manchester United.
We'll say Manchester.
Absolutely. So 1906, 1907, they finished 8th in the 1st division. Not bad for their first season up. And then 1907, 1908 season, they won the 1st division title on 52 points. That year, they also happened to win 1908. I believe they won their 1909. They won their first FA Cup. Do you know who they won that final over?
19. Man City.
No.
Who was it?
Bristol City. 1-0.
Bristol. Close. We got a city.
Very close. It was a city for sure. They actually won the first ever Charity Shield in 1908. So what I didn't know was the Charity Shield was a pro versus amateur cup. Yeah. So the first leg or first match, sorry, was a 1-1 tie, and that was versus Queen Park Rangers. And in the replay, they ended up winning that one 4-0. So that's what won them the Charity Shield. So we said 1909. That was the first FA Cup title for them. So 1909, 1908, their owner, Mr. Davies, a wonderful owner. He did what the Glazers don't do, and he actually put money back into the club. He gave him £60,000 at the time, which was huge money back then. I don't know what that would be in today's money. And that facilitated the move into Old Trafford in 1909, 1910. So huge, because I mean, that's where we're hanging our hat nowadays. So
It is,
yeah, huge thumbs up to Mr. Davies. From everything that I read on him, just a real classy guy and a true fan of Manchester United, and did what he could for the club, including, handing over huge sums of money. So 1909, 1910, 1908, 1909 didn't fare so well in the first division, dropped down to 13th place. 1909, 1910, the improvement was there again, 5th place in the first division. And then 1910, 1911, we were first in the first division. We won the title again, and we just squeaked out Aston Villa on the last day of the season to win the title.
What year was that? 1910, 1911?
1910, 1911.
Yep.
You betcha.
Beat Sunderland 5-1.
Yeah. So,
do you know who scored 2 goals in that game?
I don't.
𝙈𝙊𝙍𝙀 grabbed 2 goals. Yep.
Wow.
And they also scored 6 goals as United beat Swindon 8-4 to clinch the Charity Shield.
Gee, I didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty good.
That is very good. Very good. So just, that takes us to 1911. Fortunately, that is the year that 𝗕𝗏𝗏 left for Manchester City.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and despite the feats that he Manchester United, which were some incredible feats, United could not maintain the winning run. And in 1911, 1912, the defending champions finished a disappointing 13th place the next season.
Yeah.
Pretty difficult. With Secretary Manager Ernest Magnol bore the brunt of the criticism and resigned to join Man United's rivals, Man City. So the following year, he kind of left. The search for Magnol's successor finished at the door of J.J. Bentley, the president of the Football League. Under his guidance, Manchester United claimed 4th in the league at the end of the 1912-1913 season. And the 1913-1914 term was a period of transition for Manchester United. While the following campaign was notable for changes of management, in December 1914, the roles of secretary and team manager were separated for the first time, which was pretty good. It was pretty late, and when you talk about separating. Bentley became the full-time secretary, and John Robson was appointed to look after and select the team. Robson's team was a shadow of the one that had performed so well in the previous decades, though. And only George Stancy, Billy Meredith, Sandy Turnbull, and George Wall remained from the 1909 FA Cup winning side. Not surprisingly, though, the club struggled, only escaping relegation by a single point, which has some very weird reminiscence to this year.
Yeah.
Not by a single point, but that's some, But I hope,
And wasn't that the year that 3 Man United players got charged with a betting scandal?
Yeah, believe so. It might have been a little bit later, but
They cohorted with Liverpool players of all people.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Here, we have the base.
Yeah, that's right.
But before United could form a plan for recovery, the outbreak of the First World War put football firmly on the back of people's minds. A horrible time,
Absolutely.
known as the Great War. I'm waiting for some Americans to pop in and say that they won it for us, because that's how they usually happens. Just like the Second World War. Nothing to do with the fact that Canada and England were holding on for so long by themselves.
I was gonna say there's hardly a mention of
right.
The Canadian Britain allies.
Oh yeah, the Canadians during both wars were fantastic.
There's some truly inspiring stories.
Oh yeah,
just signing up by the millions. Send me over. I'm up for the adventure.
Absolutely.
I work with a guy whose grandfather-in-law, he fought in World War I, came back to Canada, served as a police officer in Winnipeg. World War II breaks out, and he signs up again, goes over, fights in World War II, and then comes back to Canada and lives out the rest of his life.
Now that is a story. That is a hell of a story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fortunately, my great granddad, my mum's granddad passed away, during the war. So, but a lot of people did back then, and it's sacrifice and the great things that we have today thanks to them. So,
absolutely, God bless them all.
Absolutely. Now, the Football League was suspended, and clubs reported to playing in regional competition. United played in the Lancashire Principal tournaments for 4 seasons, but this was a less than successful division. The misery compounded by the fact that 2 of the club's players were found guilty of the match fixing. Like you said, Egno West was banned for life, and as was Sandy Turnbull, who joined the footballers battalion to help Britain's war effort. Tragically, Turnbull, though, was killed during the battle in France in May 1917. So we have that, and then so that's kind of not overly, a lot with that. Obviously, the more we get into this, the more pictures is going to be there, and I'm actually thinking about maybe adding next 5 to 10 years to kind of make the show longer. But some great insight into the Man United early years, of how they came about to become Manchester United, and
some of the things that their players have done, right? So in 1907, and Casemiro, you can thank these 2 gentlemen from Manchester United, Charlie Roberts and Billy Meredith.
Mm-hmm.
They started what was called the Association of Football Players and Trainers Union,
yes.
Which is now today known as the Players Football Association. So I believe it was the 1909-1910 season where the Football League threatened to suspend all players who held a union membership. So the Manchester United squad refused to give up their union membership. They called themselves the Outcasts, and they held steadfast. And so I guess the league and the players came to a compromise, and the players were able to maintain their union status. And here we are today, players earning hundreds of thousands of British pounds a week.
Yeah, and it's a great thing to have the union. American football have it.
Yep.
Everyone else have, because you always see the lockout, as they call it over here. But it's great for the Premier League teams to have it too. I think I may have read correctly. I think some players, with the backing of the club and the backing of that association, are going to come out as gay. Reading something today, so you have that ability to, it's they're going to have the backing of everyone else, and how well that's going to be taken abroad. You know, or, yeah, some cities, some countries, that's still not acceptable.
I worry
Even,
about that. Some
yeah,
countries for sure. For
yeah.
sure. You know, do you leave the players behind? Do you make a stand? Bring them with? Um, you know, there's some countries where it's out and out illegal still in this day and age.
So
Um,
yeah, that's the thing is, I when the wrestling
yeah,
goes over, the women have to wear full attire. They have to be neck all the way down. They have to wear like leather suit.
yeah,
They still can't show most of their body, and that's why kind of it's the same principle with some of these players. Are they going to feel comfortable going over there? I hope they do. But it's about time in the day and age. Some of those, people are able to come out with it themselves.
yeah. You know, for me, let's just remember it's about the football.
It is. It really
You know,
is about the football.
it's what
Tomorrow
goes
is
on.
going to be the same thing. About the
Yeah,
football. I know we haven't really talked much about it. The guys did the show last night. So the last 5 minutes of this show, I'm going to talk about tomorrow. How are you feeling for tomorrow?
I feel good. I mean, how can you not going in, to Old Trafford, 3-0 lead. I said again, sorry. Like we talked about earlier, athletic clubs missing their 3 top guys. So it's going to take a lot for Manchester United to blow a 3-0 lead at Old Trafford. I'd be happy with a 0-0, draw, whatever. Just get through to the final.
Yeah.
And then, we'll take it from there. I like their chances. I really do. Got our best starting 11, minus a couple key defenders. 𝗕𝙊𝙍 is going to be a huge loss. He's been an absolute stud this season.
Did you see the news on him today?
Yeah, he's taking it day to day.
Yeah, he won't be available tomorrow or Sunday, but it doesn't look like it's a season-ending injury. It looked like it's not too bad, which is great news. But it's also one of those like, oh, you haven't played in a while. Do we stick him in for the final because you're going to be rusty?
That's just it. Game speed is so important nowadays, and I don't know how 2-3 weeks would affect a player in today's game. I imagine it's a great impact. And how long will it take him? First 5 minutes, first 10 minutes, to kind of get his bearings and okay, yeah, I'm in a real dogfight here.
Yeah, I think if we get through to the final, it's one of like we have to just rest everybody. I know there's this whole like they've got to bit stuff, but the way the injuries are coming at Man United, it's I wouldn't even be playing like Bruno. Okay, but even then, it's still a risk of a slide tackle gone wrong and he's screwed.
That's what happened to 𝗕𝙊𝙍. Somebody fell on his leg.
He fell on his leg, yeah. But the good news is Aiden Heaven is back on the grass today. Good.
Training, absolutely.
Ahmed, he won't be ready for tomorrow or Sunday, but he might be ready for the final. And then the news. What's that?
Bruno wants to play.
Bruno wants to play, but he doesn't need to play. It's just like one of those where he was like, "I'm not coming off unless you tell me." No, you need a rest for Thursday. And then we get the good news today, or yesterday, that both Williams brothers are out of the cup tomorrow. I'm gonna say this now. We said this. Sorry.
The other guy, Sansell or Sansell?
Yeah, he's their top goal scorer this year.
He is.
So,
he is.
With that though, I was saying this before. I think they're scared. And you were saying, well, how many points are they off the Champions League?
1 point out of a Champions League spot.
Yeah, I think they know the tie's done. Leaving the Williams brothers at home, not risking them. Because at the end of the day, coming for 3-0 win, 3-0 loss, going to Old Trafford is going to be hard as it is. And then say those players get injured, they're already. Nico Williams was out for the last couple of weeks, and he made that game good. I'm wondering if they're focusing more on getting them into the Champions League, Spanish League, than because Betis are right behind them too.
Yes.
Don't forget that. So Betis are right behind them, and it looks like they may be playing Chelsea in the final. And I really don't want this to happen, but it may look like if United win the final, Betis win the final, Anthony's going to be the first player in history to win 2 European competitions with 2 different clubs the same season.
Wow. Wow. But no, I want to see. Like we've discussed this on previous shows.
Yeah.
I want to see these guys do well.
They do.
Right? It means more money. Hopefully Glazers don't take it, and more money in the transfer kitty. And we can start this. I'm not going to call it a rebuild. I'll call it a retooling. In the summer, because it's desperately needed. We have no depth. Our starting 11, you can't match them against probably the top 9 teams in England right now.
This is the worst. This could quite possibly be the worst Man United squad in history. And I'm talking about the team that were relegated to, like in the 80s. Like, I'm talking about that team too, because back in the day, it was more competitive back then. Like the gap at the top was, we look at now, second place to first. Arsenal 15 points behind Liverpool, right? Not competitive. Like Liverpool just ran away with it, and Arsenal would just been shit. December.
Yeah.
Casey saying they might feel it's not worth it anymore. Just focus on the league. I 100% agree. I think they know that it's over, and we're like, nah, we're just gonna get in the Champions League through the league. It doesn't shock me if that would happen. And Bodo Glint tomorrow, they're not a team that's gonna be like, all right, we're gonna sit back and just defend here. No, they're gonna go all out tomorrow. If they can get an early goal, it's gonna be seriously interesting tomorrow.
Yep. We know the Tottenham fans, right? Fickle, they go down. Then
You're right, Casey. The team that got relegated was full of United icons. Yeah, it was just a widely more competitive league, and so for me personally, I think this is the worst team I've ever seen. They're so bad.
Watching since 1989, this is the worst team they've ever had.
Is it the worst that they've had, or the worst you've seen?
The worst I've witnessed in my since 1989.
This is the worst I've seen United, and I also believe that this is the worst team that the Man United's ever had. It's you talk about the early years. Okay, we're talking the history. Even then they were 1 point above relegation. It was a new league. It was the World War was going on. Things were happening back. Like now, the only thing that's happening is these players are just not playing. And that's the thing that concerns me about the Europa League final. If it is Tottenham, I would have took anybody else in Europe, and I mean in the Europa League, I would have took anybody else to be in that final. Tottenham. And the reason why I would have done that is because we're so shit in the league, and Tottenham are a Premier League team. And that's the only thing that worries me. It's not Tottenham that scares me. It's the fact that it's a Premier League team that we're possibly playing. And we're so bad at the Premier League.
Yeah, we turn it off against Premier League team.
Casemiro's built for European football, right? Is he built for Tottenham again? Because the last time we played Tottenham, he got ran over.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And I believe that was said on the show last night or a couple shows ago. But it's the character in the player. He played in Spain, did well, successful. And you're right. He's built for that European game. It's a slower build up. You got lots of the field to see. As I've said in previous shows, the Premier League is a completely different beast.
It is.
Completely different. You have no time to think. It's rugged, little knocks here and there that, they look inconspicuous on the beat. You take those knocks for 90 minutes, after a game, you are sore.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in some other leagues around Europe, you can go play 90 minutes and then hop on the exercise bike because you still feel fresh. Yeah. Which is what I love about the English league. I don't like the diving that's been going on the last few years because I thought, it was the last bastion where, men were men and, they got a knock, they got up, they took a number and right back at her. Right. So it's a different bird, and I don't think we have a Premier League rugged and ready squad.
We don't, and that's why the Europa League is so. Gotta get that. We gotta get the Champions League because I honestly do. There's a lot of belief and a lot of that I think Bruno might ask them if we do not make Champions.
If he's going to get $65 million a year, God bless him. And we as Manchester United get 120 million pounds to spend. As a manager, I would go pick him up in my car and drive him to the airport myself.
If we don't make Champions League.
You know, even if we do, Sean, even if we do, I love Bruno. He's been probably the only bright spot of the season. Fantastic player, but as others have said, he's 30, turning 31 in September. You know, and 120 million pounds, that's probably Cunha and Gyökeres.
Well, I would take Cunha out of that because we're already buying. That's probably going to come off the back of the other sales.
But I'm just saying now we can take the money from the other sales and go out and get a Cherokee, you know, possibly this Serbian goaltender. You know, sky's the limit. Now you're talking 5-6 players, right? That transforms your squad.
Yeah, it really does, and it's crazy to even. I'm one of those guys that I'm like realize probably would have got relegated this year if it wasn't Bruno.
100%.
Not only that, and we wouldn't be where we are in Europe without Bruno.
No, he has scored so many of those one-time cutback goals,
penalties, everything. Like, and everyone thinks it's like, oh, it's a penalty. Taking a penalty to bring one back in that situation is difficult. Like we saw it today. Like a PSG missed the penalty today. It's the pressure of just stepping up in a competition that's so important. And you know,
I was Bush League, but I was I was a penalty taker for our team, and I tell you, I'd get so nervous, man. Almost before every penalty shot, I'd have to take a pee. Like that's how, you know what I mean? How nervous I'd go. It is
pee down the side of your leg before you take it.
Yeah,
no one's gonna know any difference.
No, it's just sweat. No, but yeah, it is nerve wracking. You know, a lot of these guys, they don't do themselves like that run up today from Vitinha.
It was horrible. Dude, if I was the PSG manager, I'd be like, you're not taking a penalty if we get one in the final. You're not taking. That was horrendous. It wasn't even a run up. It was like, and the worst thing is, it got saved by possibly one of the worst not goalkeepers, because he's an amazing goalkeeper, one of the worst penalty savers in the Premier League.
Yeah.
The fact that Łużycki got scored past him from the penalty spot.
Right.
So, I believe Heaven scored penalty as well.
Yeah.
No, was it Evan that scored against Arsenal?
Or was it Euro?
Euro, that was it. Lenny Euro scored past them. Yeah.
It was Euro. So yeah, Bruno, I love him. I absolutely love him. But you know, that is team transformation money.
It is. Now, for me though, if we do make the Champions League, I don't sell him. I think he's going to be pivotal in the Champions League because we'll have the money, right? We have the money. If we get around 100 million, roughly around 100 million, we're playing in the Champions League.
Yeah,
I don't sell him because he's going to be pivotal, and we can't finish. We can't get knocked out in the group stage like we did last time. We're not even in the group stage of the league. We can't get knocked out right away with that. We need to at least compete like because it is embarrassing enough being the worst. We actually are the worst Premier League team to play in Europe. That was horrendous how many points we got. But talking about that real quick, I know we have a few minutes left, but about the goalie, what's your thoughts on the goalie? Was he 6'7", 28 years old, 6'8"? Great shot stopper, but not so good at playing out from the back.
You know what? We have Onana, who was supposed to be unbelievable with his feet, right? And I watch the wing backs. They come back, and he waits, and he waits, and he waits. I want a goalie that's able to stop shots. And this guy does. He's great in the air at 6'8". You have to be, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not really worried about him getting down and then getting back up. We saw 𝗕𝗓𝙍𝗀 today, who's 6'5", 6'6".
Oh my God, some of the saves.
Just I gotta say, the two goalies, Jan Sommer and 𝗕𝗓𝙍𝗀, both were amazing. Both of them were amazing. Two saves in particular yesterday by Jan Sommer, especially the second one on 𝗕𝗏 with just the fingertips. Incredible. And 𝗕𝗓𝙍𝗀 today, right? So, and what's his release clause? This
20 million. 20 million, I believe.
20 million. I heard like 17 million.
I would get him and keep Onana. Have them compete.
Yeah, a little bit of pressure on Onana might do him some good.
Mm-hmm.
Light a fire under his butt, and he needs to improve. I've never seen a goalkeeper. Onana makes a good save, but what happens with his hands afterwards? I've never seen a guy parry the ball.
No, he can't catch a ball. He cannot catch in it. And I'm not going to say that he never catches a ball, but when a powerful shot comes at him, he just can't do it, and he can't use his feet either. Like, that's what I loved about David De Gea, because it wasn't just his hands. He would just save with his feet. The guy would just save out of nowhere. Yeah. Obviously, in his later years, things started to go wrong, started to let goals in. But that's a hit. But really, is it any different than what we got now? Because David De Gea, I think, what was he? He was still 30. That was still prime time for a goalkeeper.
He was still 30. I mean,
we didn't get Van der Sar till he was 30.
Well, Peter Shilton played for England until he was 48.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a good goalie, you're a good goalie. And De Gea was Spain's #1. I think the only problem with De Gea was he was asking for unbelievable money at the time.
Yeah. Well, I know they agreed a contract while he was on vacation. Shitty thing. Especially with a legend. And you can call him a legend. He won Premier League, he won everything. He won Europa League. Obviously, he didn't win the Champions League, but he won a lot with Man United. So I'd go in that category. Legend goalkeeper. I would say since Fergie took over, because he was a Fergie signing.
Yep.
Schmeichel, who's fucking Judas in my eyes.
Yeah.
Went to City. Sorry, you leave United and go to City, you're Judas. You didn't. And the thing is, he didn't have to leave in '99. He was the one that retired. Yep. It was him that wanted to leave. So my eyes, Judas. And then you got Van der Sar, and then you've got David De Gea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and the American guy, Howard, he was good for a spell.
Who's that?
He's an analyst now, Howard.
Oh, yeah, Tim Howard. He was good for one season. He was good for United for a season, then he kind of dropped off.
He started having mental issues, I believe.
It was USA goalie.
Yes. I don't know if he was manic depressive or bipolar. I read a story on him. It was kind of tragic.
Yeah.
The head started playing games with him and stuff like that because he was a great goaltender.
It was in his first season at United. He was absolutely fantastic. But that's it for tonight with those. Next Wednesday we'll be back doing from the 1919 onwards. Obviously, in the later years, we're going to get into a lot more, especially in the 2000s. The 80s, 90s, 2000s. They're going to be a lot more.
Oh, absolutely.
In the 60s.
And, that era, it wasn't the Premier League at the time. It was the English First Division. That's what I kind of grew up watching. And it just amazes me at how many of the big clubs that were, in with the Man Uniteds.
Yeah, Luton.
Luton, Leeds.
Leeds are back in the Premier League now.
Yeah, Queen's Park Rangers, Coventry, Wimbledon with the Fashanu brothers.
Wimbledon's, they went bust.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and do correct me if I'm mistaken, I think they're still, up until now, I know Wrexham are doing pretty well, but they're the first team to go from non-league to Premier League consecutively without a gap in between.
So just straight down.
They went from non-league all the way up consistently, one season after another. And now they're MK Dons, they're called. I know there's a Wimbledon out there, but the original team, Milton Kings, and MK Dons. But there is a Wimbledon around, not the
knockoff club.
Yeah, hello, knockoff club. Right next to where I was born in Bedford, which is right next to
Okay.
but other than that, guys, thank you for stopping in for another history lesson of Manchester United. A big shout out to 𝗦𝗶𝗴𝙍, our other sponsor here at StateSideReds. Your local t-shirt company, well, not even local, but local to the UK and local to Manchester, as they are out of Manchester, United Kingdom. With their t-shirt company, they do hats, stickers. It's a subscription service. I'm a member myself. Casey is. Casey loves their stuff. So do I. So please go over and visit 𝗦𝗶𝗴𝙍 if you use this discount code StateSideReds and get 10% off of all your purchases. You should go check them out, Mr. Green. Awesome company. Yeah, they have some great t-shirts. They send you monthly.
Okay.
Yeah, go use that and use StateSideReds. Get you 10% off now that you're a stateside redder.
Exactly.
But we'll be back hopefully tomorrow after to celebrate a European final. I don't see it going any other way, but I've been wrong many of times in the past. So,
I think we got this one in the bag.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say is 𝗕𝗓𝗊𝗍𝙀 Arsenal back at it again. There is nothing better than me watching a certain Arsenal channel. Never going to say what it is. And watch them complain and bitch and complain. Apparently this time the reason they didn't make it to the finals was because of injuries, and also because they need to choose the new format. They need to choose which leg they want to play at home first. Apparently they want to play it away first because they were third in the league, so they feel like they deserve to pick. So that's why they lost. So but it's classic. Yeah, but it's okay, Arsenal. Just like Netflix, there's always another season. And now with that being said, Mr. Green, peace out, and I'll see you soon, my man.
See you later, everybody.
But,
Thanks, Sean.